So a baseboard, that's kind of like a little 2x4 almost, right? Like a little piece of wood. So what I would do is I would just get a piece and split it. And if you don't have an axe or something, you can just use a knife. And, you know, don't do it on the ground or on a rock, and then use another stick and tap the top of your knife. It's called contact splitting or batoning. And then you can actually split wood that way, okay? You can do that and just split a piece of wood in half, and make a, you know, like a 2x4 looking piece, and make that, you want your spindle and your baseboard about the same thickness, okay? Which is about as thick as your thumb. So in an ideal world, if you made your spindle, it would be this long, so hang loose, and as thick as your thumb. Your baseboard, it doesn't matter how long it is, that should be as thick as your spindle, and you should have that 90-degree edge, that flat edge, okay? So let's say I don't have any holes, okay? So I split my wood and get my spindle, my baseboard. My handhold, all I need to do is just, and if you don't have a saw, you can just whittle away a stick, right? And then just get that flat edge and just drill a hole into it, and over time that'll burn out. And then once you have that burnt out, what you want to do is you'll want to lubricate that a little. So this would probably be a hole that I'd lubricate. I don't want that to burn much more, because the deeper it is, then you might start running into friction on the sides, and that'll slow you down. So you can get some pine sap if you want to rub that on the side of your nose or something, some earwax if you had that, chapstick works great. You know, anything, like pine sap is awesome. It's just, it's hard at first, but once it heats up, it'll lubricate it, because it's sticky at first. So the spindle, if you guys look around and you find like a dead spruce tree, what you'll see, and you want a tree with the bark still on. If the bark's flaked off, it's probably too decomposed, and you want it dead, you could do it live if that's all your option, all you had for options. So you have this dead tree, and you'll have these branches will grow out. You'll see like clumps of branches all grow out together, and then there's a space of the trunk that has nothing, and then another clump of branches. You want to cut in between those clumps of branches. You have a perfect spindle right there. Sharpen the ends of that. You could even keep the bark on. You could cut it off. But all the spindles that you guys have, most of the spindles you guys have are made from something like this, like splitting wood, so splitting logs. So all I do is I try to get a triangular piece of wood, and I whittle that away. And also, if you have a hard time with tinder too, really fine cedar shavings work awesome as tinder, if you get a pile of those. So that's pretty, that's pretty circle. If you get on a flat surface and roll it, you can tell if it's circular or not. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So now I'll just sharpen the ends. And like I said, if you just find that dead tree with the trunk, with the branches, you can avoid that whole carving all this part, and it's because it's already circular. I just take my knife and I drill a little hole. So is this a good idea to do it like that? No, okay. How about this? Okay, so I'll put that on the ground, and I'll just, and if it takes more time to do it safe, why not, right? Because if you do cut yourself, that's gonna be, you know, if you're lost in the woods, it's risk for infection, or it's just gonna take more time to have to tend to that wound, okay? So at the end of the class, if I shake anyone's hand, I'll shake with my left hand, just so. And then my handhold, I just have my rock here with the hole in it. This hole took me like 5 to 6 hours to make with another quartz rock, just sitting there grinding it. But now that I made it, I never need to go and make another one. So, and the bow, if you guys notice, there's just notches carved in that, and that's really the only prep you need to do with the bow. And then the string's on there. Let's see, so, see how that's nice and tight? When you have a new spindle too, I like to, because the cedar gets really compressed because it's a soft wood. So again, I have my foot really close to that hole. My arm is to the outside of my leg and not on the inside, or not like right in front. It's to the outside, and I want as much arm to leg contact as I can get. Clear all that away. And I'll stick that right in that hole, right on top. And I'll just go nice and easy. And make sure you breathe when you do this too. And I'll go until I can reach the full diameter of that spindle, until that full diameter burns into the wood. And that's why I don't want to sharpen my spindle too sharp, like a pencil or a spear, because it'll drill too deep into the wood before you reach that maximum diameter. All right, so now that rounded off, and then this rounded off a little bit, but so you tend to find that this won't be as rounded and this will be more rounded. And remember that too, because then once you lube this up, if you put that on the bottom, you might ruin your entire hole because that has like the pine sap or whatever in there. And I have all that black dust. That's money right there. Yeah, I'm the richest person in the world right now. So that, I mean, if you have your leaf, save that. So I want all that dust to gather in one spot, and that's why I carve a notch. All right, so now this is like, it's so easy to because you have to carve like 1/8 of the pie, but not all the way to the middle. So this is the easiest way to cut towards yourself and to have an injury happen. So it's annoying, but keep flipping your spindle or your baseboard around.
Why use cedar as opposed to like pine?
So cedar is a non, you can use pine. I just like cedar because it's really easy. It's a non-resinous softwood, so it doesn't have all that sap like pine does. Pine you can use and it works great. You just have to make sure it's really dry. So like if we grab that, there's like a couple pine, like we got the cambium from yesterday, that would not be good wood to use because it's still live and really sappy. But willow is great. I love using sage. Yep, and then there's some yucca. There's a yucca spindle right there. And that's like, it has like the spiky leaves, and then there's one stem that comes up. So I twirl that in, and then the same thing that you guys already saw me do, okay? So it's just, make sure you're breathing and just using the full length of that. Usually when I carve the notch, that's always like the, did I make it or break it? Because sometimes you can carve the notch a little too big. So if I stop and look, see how it's still smoking? This actually might be a ghost coal. Let's see. See, so that's a ghost coal. So it's really, it's smoking, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. And then it stops. So save that dust. And if you notice dust still gathering around, that usually means you can carve your notch a little bit bigger. So the notch is so all that dust gathers in one spot, and then it retains that heat. Yeah, so, because otherwise that dust would gather around the ring instead of in one spot.
And the dust is what actually turns into a coal.
Yep, and it's just little tiny bits of that. It's almost like you're making tiny little charcoal bits. And then they get to 800 degrees, really hot. And then they don't catch on fire, they just get that little coal. So that's why if you ever see those survival shows, the guys doing hand drill, and all of a sudden there's like a fire that happens, that's staged and fake. I apologize for the squeak. I think it's the handhold. So let's stop and take a peek. And sometimes you get this really light brown dust, and that means that you're close, but not close enough, because you need black dust to get the coal. So there's some black dust in there, but so that's a coal. I feel confident that that'll stay. And then you can relax, get your tinder bundle. Just take a moment to calm down. So, actually, so that's actually a great question, because when it's windy out, this will be done in like a minute. But if it's shielded, it's not windy, or I'm like, you know, if you do it like in your garage or something, it'll stay lit for like 10 minutes. I actually do that sometimes with friends. It's a challenge where you start a Boudreaux coal and you see how many Boudreaux coals you can get before the first one goes out.
Start a big one.
Yeah. So I'll just bring that into the, and I made all these cedar shavings, so that's good tinder, so why not, right? Let's use it. Let's see what happens. Gather all that up. And just start with long, gentle breaths, but as the coal gets bigger, you'll see it and it'll be more smoky. You can start to blow on it harder, and you should blow on it harder just to give it more air. But if you blow too hard, too quick, it'll go out. All right. So real quick, while everyone's here, there's also another method you guys could do. It's called hand drill. So let's say we lose the bow and lose the handhold, okay? So all we have is a spindle and a baseboard. All that your handhold's using it to push down, right? It's being used to push down, and the bow is being used to move the spindle. So pretty much this is what's happening. We can change this and make the spindle a little bit longer and a little bit thinner. And we can do this and use our hands. It's like the stereotypical rubbing fire with sticks that we'll see, you know, in the media or something. And here, let's just, maybe I'll get some smoke and show you. This is a wicked long spindle. I like this. See how I'm getting a little bit of smoke there? So it's the same thing. But the thing about hand drill is that you actually need to like physically condition your hands. So I have a rock and a spindle in my house. So then, you know, in the morning or at night or something, when I wake up or before I go to bed, I'll just do a round of hand drill just so I can keep some calluses in my hands. Because if you go too hard and do it for too long, you'll get blisters. And then once you get a blister, you have to wait till that heals. So once you start to feel like hot spots on your hand, just stop, because then you won't be able to practice hand drill for a while. So make sure you take it easy with the hand drill. But if people want to practice that, please do, because that's a different method. Anyone who gets the fire always gets the conch.